There are many examples of videos discussing grooming in either children's media or young adult media on YouTube, usually discussing how terrible the handling of those topics were, including infamous examples like Pretty Little Liars that features about 1 million inappropriate relationships. It's probably a record high, honestly. Some with very, and I mean very, illegal age gaps. Or Brace Face, for example, showing a similar storyline with questionable outcomes discussed in this video. I'm going to link it in the description. In the case of PLL, the problem is not with the fact that these relationships were shown, but the fact that they were never treated as something inappropriate by the narrative or by the writers of the show, which is the part that's kind of dodgy, not even kind of, very much dodgy. It's obviously not great for young people to be exposed to this type of thing without it being seen as something negative. This video here is a great watch if you want to hear more about that. And since I have grown up and went back to watch childhood shows to make deep dives into girl media, I was kind of surprised by what I found in Winx Club season 2. I have made a deep dive talking about Winx, obviously, but this storyline has become a topic on its own because I'm gonna be real with you, back before my first Winx deep dive, I did not remember that this storyline was a season long, nor that it was using a lot of metaphors and like situations that describe a clear grooming of the main character by her teacher. And I especially didn't realize how surprisingly well it was handled by the writers. To be fair, I did always feel uneasy when Avalon, the teacher in question, was spending one-on-one time with Bloom, the main character, but I honestly didn't have a clue as to why that was, obviously due to being like 7 or 8 years old when watching this. Overall, season 2 of Winx Club is about stopping or continuing cycles of abuse. Listen, just hear me out, okay? Season 2 deals with a lot of fallout from season 1, but does it in a way that's kind of hard to notice if you don't actually approach the material with at least a monogram of respect, which not a lot of people do when it comes to any media that's targeted at a primarily female audience or even shows that have a large female cast. The storylines that concern us today and set the scene for season 2 are, first of all, Bloom's newfound anxiety that wasn't there for the first season, except for the last few episodes, due to her finding out just how important her power is, how easy it is to snatch from her if she doesn't learn everything about Domino's history and her background. If you remember, she literally manages to get her power back because of reconnecting with her sister's spirit in the abandoned palace of Domino and then in the Lake Rocoluce, as well as this little thing that, regardless of what conflict is going to be going on in the magical dimension, she'll be dragged into it as the main player or victim because of what she possesses. She's basically the oil and mineral reserve of the magical dimension. Second storyline is of her relationship with Sky and just how hard it was going to be for her to actually trust him. It's not stated outright, but Bloom in season 2 is all of a sudden a jealous girlfriend type. And if you remember the type of shit that Sky pulled last season, you'd immediately realize that it's not really sudden, but we'll get back to Bloom's issues a bit later. Let's talk about Darkar and Avalon for a moment. I always found the main villain, Darkar, quite boring. Mostly because he's the type of villain to sit back and manipulate or send minions, to do his bidding. And that never read as compelling to me, just on an instinctive level. He's never at the forefront of any action. However, the more you start to pay attention to the personal internal struggles that the main characters go through, something that is definitely the main focus of the season, you start to kind of come around. For example, Avalon is a renowned professor that is a big score for Althea because of his CV. He is someone who is presented to us as one of the good guys for the entirety of the season until like episode 23 out of 26, by the way, where we find out that the real Avalon never reached Althea and has been a prisoner in Darkar's dungeon the entire time. Just to be clear, if you were watching this show for the first time, Avalon was treated as the good guy the entire season, but the signs were of course there. For those who are old enough or for those who are really good at picking up clues and stuff like that, it wasn't too obvious as it usually is in kids media. Fake Avalon is the one that Bloom was dealing with. Basically the king of catfishing. Was phishing already a thing back then? Well, it is now, and it happens online, not in downland. Phishing is a type of attack on your personal information where you can get an email from what looks like one of your service providers, like a bank, an email account, host, your hydro online bill. It could be literally anything. And it turns out that it's just a fake email address that was created by scammers to trick you, to fish you, into revealing information like passwords, credit card numbers, etc. Today's video partner, NordVPN, has a feature that protects its users from phishing by recognizing many malicious links and lets you know about it before you do anything to compromise your safety. NordVPN offers a special deal for anyone who signs up with creator links like my link, nordvpn.com/Fevral, that adds 4 bonus months of NordVPN services with each 2-year plan purchased. You also get a 30-day money-back guarantee in case you don't like the product. Thank you to today's video partner, NordVPN, and you can find my link, nordvpn.com/Fevral, linked in the description. Faux Avalon has been created by Darkar, possessing all the knowledge and look of the real professor, but created to watch over Bloom. At first, as a way to get her to bring a piece of the codex to him herself. And later, when Darkar realizes that he needs Bloom to unlock whatever power he was after, Avalon's hypnosis is used as a way to use her destabilized and corrupted state to make her cooperate with basically no choice in the matter. Darkar immediately becomes more compelling as a villain when you realize that fake Avalon is not a separate entity, not even a minion, really. He is a part of Darkar that he molded into a creature. To be fair, Darkar is kind of just a manifestation of darkness in humanoid form. He's not really that human either, but that creature on its own is not really the same thing as a real person. We can't really analyze him by looking for personal feelings and motivations outside of Darkar's, but because of that, he is a perfect manifestation of a metaphor, you know? A perfect example of what young people need to be wary of, a person in position of power abusing that power. And because he doesn't have his own personal agendas and other things like that, it becomes more about the situation than it is about trying to understand where this type of shit is coming from on the adult side, which I think is better for this type of metaphorical exploration, because I think that it's less dangerous and it doesn't go into the territory of humanizing the villain too much. Let's look at the way that he does it and how his behavior managed to be effective, since a lot of people think that Bloom trusting him is not narratively sound or believable, and I just really want to clear every one of those assumptions up. And I do want you to pay attention to how many parallels there are between really common signs of grooming that are usually presented to parents who are worried about their kid, the way that they can kind of, you know, the list of things that you can look out for, and things that Avalon does and effects that we can see in Bloom. Avalon is established as the hero, a savior, an impressive professional within his field, and someone everyone finds attractive, like right out the gate. He appears for the first time in the series saving Bloom, Stella, Sky, and Aisha from the Tricks, who at that point have already become Darkar's minions with huge power up to boot. The entire group is saved as if they are damsels in distress. They don't even have to keep fighting. This isn't like a situation where a character helps tilt the scales in hero's favor. He genuinely just shows up and gets rid of the Tricks in like 1 second flat. He is all mysterious and he flies away, and because of how much of a performance that whole thing is and how impressive it looks, no one questioned it. Stella literally calls him,
"Would you look at that? A super hunk!"
This guy is supposed to be literal Adonis. There's even a what I believe to be a mistake maybe of some form in the comics where they call him Professor Adonis. I think that maybe he was supposed to be Adonis in the show Bible. There's a lot of differences between the show and the comics that are really small, but they're still there, and I think it might be because of that. Basically, he's supposed to be hot, okay? Then Farragonda decides to introduce him in the most dramatic way possible by creating some stone that she presents as suspicious, implying it's something darker made, and needs to be destroyed by the Winx girls. They literally waste all of their energy. Even Bloom don't even make a dent in it. Yeah. By the way, here is where we start to see this distrust that Bloom has when it comes to her own powers and struggle with growing into this position of someone who has to always be at the front lines of any battle, being the responsible one in most circumstances, having even her mentors turn to her for help. This is very Buffy-esque, if you know what I mean, and the whole thing of dark heart as a metaphor is very Buffy as well, except I think that honestly there's a lot of issues with the metaphors that were written in Buffy because of humanizing the demons. I actually like that they humanize them, but at the same time the metaphor doesn't really work. We'll talk about it in the Buffy deep dive, but Bloom stays behind for so long that the girls get worried that something happened to her, and to be fair, something did happen to her. She literally pummeled that rock until she passed out in the rain, and once again she's carried home by Avalon, acting as savior once again, this time literally holding her all fucking hero style. He really got lucky with that one, to be honest. What a perfect setup and cool cred to get with everybody at the school without having to scheme or anything. It's absolutely perfect, honestly. Farragonda tells everyone that she made that rock to show how some magic is technical magic, which is reliant on spells and incantations, not your own source of magic, like the one that they used to rely on, like different types of light for Stella, music for Musa, etc. And how knowing how to solve something, find a specific spell that was used or whatever, can be more powerful than having brute force like Bloom does, for example. Avalon crashes that rock immediately and everyone is enamored. Once again, he is hot, he is well respected. Even by Farragonda herself, he is clearly powerful, and if they don't feel nervous around him because he's hot,
He makes me feel a teeny bit nervous.
Is this guy hot or what? I can't get my eyes off him.
they do because he's crazy smart. And his specialization is cognitive analysis magic, which is implied to include growing your power by self-discovery and meditation. Psychoanalysis, my ass. Based on that, Bloom herself seeks out his help immediately, believing his knowledge to be the key to her finding out more about the dragon flame and her birth family. Honestly, the fact that no one from the magic dimension ever offered to help research Domino, the fact that Farragonda didn't bother introducing her to any of the other people who knew her parents well before they disappeared. Honestly, this is what led to Bloom doing anything and everything blindly, to be honest. The fear of endangering people because of your ignorance, combined with inexperience, with this world full of foreign cultures. Just come on, you guys, like, she doesn't know what the fuck is going on most of the time. And being kept in the dark by people who should be helping her is a really, really bad cocktail that can easily lead to being super vulnerable mentally. Even before Bloom knows that this is an assignment that pertains to Avalon's class, she doesn't even know that Avalon is there already. It is shown that she's struggling with one-track mind syndrome, unable to let not being powerful enough go even for 1 second. And this is a direct result of season 1. I'm actually glad that they didn't gloss over the fact that the whole war happened because she lost the flame. On the day she meets Avalon, she asks if he can help her, and he tells her to come after class, and then we find out that it's already nighttime and they're having a welcoming party for Avalon. Sky came to spy from a tree, naturally, because she literally hasn't responded to any of his texts or calls. Are you noticing how quickly Avalon's indulgence of Bloom's insecurity and obsession, as well as just like healthy interest in her identity and past, makes herself isolate from her relationships? All of a sudden, she can't even reply that she's doing okay. And earlier in that same class where he was introduced, she literally forgets that she was supposed to hang out with Flora right in front of Flora. She's like, oh, I guess I can't show up anymore because I'm gonna go to Avalon's. Girl, come on. Then she goes to his office after the party too. Again, okay. To take a look at the analysis of her efforts against that stone. The first day she meets this prof, she spends the whole day with him. Half of it with him alone, because he's already got so many of the answers that she needs for peace of mind. And I really do mean that. Bloom doesn't sleep well. She's constantly exhausting herself from magic use. The girl is struggling. In literally the next episode, we see one of the early signs of grooming: excessive favoritism. More specifically, giving extra responsibility to the teen, making them feel more mature, important, and creating this fear of disappointing the professor.
Bloom, would you do me a favor and look after the others while I'm gone?
You can count on me, sir.
That's what I like to hear.
Bloom stops hanging out as much with her friends and with Sky, her boyfriend, to prepare for Avalon's classes. And it's clearly excessive. It's not just because she wants to do well. But then we arrive at one of the most interesting episodes of this season when it comes to pattern recognition and friendship's role in supporting someone.
One suspicious move from him and we clobber him, okay?
This episode's title is Professor Avalon's Secret, and it features Tecna being suspicious of Avalon, but for really random reasons. Like, she thinks that because he's got wings, he's a guy from a prophecy she found, and that prophecy being about some apocalyptic level of an attack. The episode is trying to address a bunch of things at the same time. For example, this.
Who was the first ever fairy? Do you know that, or do you just believe it?
I really can't say for sure, but everyone knows about Clariel.
Having everybody believe she's the first fairy is enough to make her so, even though she's not.
It is a good lesson in trying to find real information instead of relying on things that are assumed to be true. Anti-harmful propaganda type of lesson, and cite your sources MLA style requirement in one. And Tecna's investigation leads her to believe that he is dangerous, but for the wrong reasons. And because she's wrong, she kind of makes Avalon bulletproof for the rest of the season. No! If before it was more likely that Avalon's strange appearance in Downland would have aroused some suspicions at one point or another, now everyone would be afraid to even touch the topic of Avalon being a villain of some sort with 10-foot pole. However, I think that it's not random that Tecna found him so untrustworthy, to be honest. Just in this one episode, Avalon realizes that Bloom had a dream that touched her heart, which was a dream about her family.
Bloom, last night you had a dream that touched your heart, didn't you?
And he does this just by looking at her. Considering how emotional it made her, him literally sensing it out of nowhere is an insanely effective path to creating trust where it hasn't yet formed organically. Another sign of grooming, by the way. He then shows Bloom her family tree, which she's never seen before. Once again, why couldn't Farragonda show it to her? Why couldn't she pull it up easily? It's a whole ass royal family. There's supposed to be some kind of record, right? Anyway, same episode, she is on the table in his office.
Bloom, are you ready to step into your past?
Yes, Professor, I am ready.
And they are doing some type of hypnosis therapy, very Freud type of shit. He is the facilitator of such an important process for her. And of course, we get another sign of grooming, which is gifts. Technically, Bloom gained this pendant through that therapy, but come on, you guys. The fact that it's through this bonding with her memories just makes it that much more special. We find out that Bloom doesn't really tell her friends about what happens in the sessions that often, which is fine on its own, but not so much considering that they should be closer to her than this new random man. And of course, it's quite funny that Avalon teaches listening to intuition, and Tecna's intuition was honestly entirely correct about him. Episode 10 deals with Bloom and Sky fighting like crazy. And honestly, I understand both of them, which is something I don't say often. First of all, they are really young. Bloom is 17, Sky is 18, and Sky is being jealous of Avalon. This is part of the narrative, but turns out Bloom kind of stopped asking Sky how he's doing and only tells him about Avalon and those sessions.
Point is, I trust him.
Well, you shouldn't. I find it odd that he helps you and no one else.
Yeah. This is like one of those only times when I wholeheartedly support Sky because, girl, it is weird that Avalon gives you so much attention and only you. It is weird. They reconcile because Sky dies.
He has no pulse. His heart has stopped.
Yeah, dies. Bloom restarts his heart with her healing powers, not the healthiest of ways to make up. But you know, you live and you learn, I guess. And once again, after finding out she can heal people, she just gets another insane power that is of humongous consequence and responsibility because she can't do it easily. And I'm not healing when you can heal, the guilt of not being where you need to be and doing what you can do. It's a lot once again. We don't see Avalon in the show for like 8 episodes until episode 19 where Bloom actually fully transforms into her corrupted version. So for 8 episodes, we were given some fun side quests like Hello Winx, an iconic episode, and some episodes in the Cloud Tower with the witches. It is at the Cloud Tower that it becomes clear that having this new member of the group and losing Bloom to constant efforts to learn about herself and become stronger, cue her obsession with healing magic that she needs to learn, the group is in crazy disharmony. Within this 9 episode stretch from episode 10 to 19, they lose 3/4 of the codex. By the way, the codex in this context is more like a key, not a book. Literally every day they lose to Trix or someone else because they can't even do a convergence spell together. Their teamwork is in the gutter. But in episode 19, we return to the topic at hand, the whole grooming situation, and it progressed quite a bit. Bloom is training like crazy, but it seems like she has less and less control over her powers the more she tries. And trying includes therapy or hypnosis with Avalon, so the more influence he gets over her mental state, the weaker she becomes. Bloom is also carrying the burden of knowing where the secret archive at Althea is, and honestly she knows it just by sheer accident, so it's just bad luck, I guess. However, this scene, dude, where she tells Avalon that she knows where the archive is, she cries because she clearly is, she's worried, I guess, that someone can find it. If she found it accidentally, someone else can find it accidentally, and especially find it if they're trying to find it, right? Or that maybe she will accidentally let somebody know. I don't know. Man, I'm telling you, Bloom is really not having a great time in season 2, and she cries on Avalon's shoulder, and they give him such a nasty, half a second long smile.
That's not true, Professor. I know where it is. I found it by accident. I've had to keep the secret.
She goes to do an even more intense hypnosis, and the entire Winx group is stationed outside the room, eavesdropping, and Avalon opens the door to tell them to leave. Apparently they can't even be outside the door. Yeah, they always need total privacy to have their sessions. Yeah, that's another sign, by the way. Let's talk about this hypnosis session. Bloom sees her adoptive parents and goes, "Can I go and say hello to them?" And Avalon goes,
No, Bloom, I'm sorry. Your destiny lies far beyond.
I'm having chilling flashbacks to my 18-year-old friends who got snatched, absolutely snatched, by almost 30-year-old men to date that would isolate them from friends and family. Like, one of my friends went from talking to her mom every day over the phone to only calling once a week and only with him present. Anyway, we're not even gonna get into that, but Bloom gets separated from her birth parents and her power source, the Great Dragon, before waking up. When she comes to, he tells her,
How did I do?
Good work.
Well, thank you. All right, if you really think it's best.
this is just like gross, but she also asks if she can try her powers and see how much greater they got, and he's like, oh, later. Also weirdly a classic, withholding, what was promised if the victim acts in accordance with instructions. And later, Bloom turns into her corrupted version for the first time. She taunts Timmy and
You want me to drop him just like Techna did?
then, of course, only Avalon can help her. Only Avalon can snap her out of it. It's crazy. He's creating problems that he is the only one capable of solving. Yeah. When Bloom transforms again, like a half hour later, we get another perfect parallel where Bloom tells her age-appropriate friends that she doesn't have time for stupid dress-up anymore and needs to do something important, which is steal a piece of the codex for Avalon and Darkar. Flora tries to snap Bloom out of her trance, but she basically just says things like, I don't care about our friendship. You are so cutesy and childish with your nitwit boyfriends, not like me and my Dark Lord. You know, she didn't say the last part, I guess.
Let me talk to her. Bloom, please, we're your best friends.
And I couldn't care less. Cutesy heart-shaped little notes you pass to your nitwit boyfriends. You're pathetic. You don't really think you can keep me in check, do you?
You don't really want that codex.
Oh, you mean this? Of course not. But Master Darkar sure does.
She quite literally hands that piece of the codex to Darkar. So now add an immense guilt on top of all the pile of nonsense Bloom has to deal with, and surprisingly this makes her feel on edge and become really snappy. She snaps at Sky, and it is clear that Avalon is still very much a problem for them.
I can't believe she snapped at me like that.
She would have snapped at anyone, you know? Even Avalon.
Now why do you...
She's having fun without Avalon.
Still, I bet she wishes he were here.
And then when this gondola that they're on breaks down and they figure out a way to land safely without magic or specialist tools, Bloom gains her Charmix, which is a power-up a fairy gets when she overcomes a weakness. I always thought it was so random she got it there, but now I think it makes a lot of sense actually. The entire multi-episode trip they went on is the reason why they actually managed to succeed in the end, because even though Bloom has been hypnotized and it's still gonna come back into play, the group repaired their relationships and reignited faith in themselves as a team. Darkar moves on from needing the codex because he already got it to getting Bloom. In episode 23, we finally see the real Avalon in Darkar's dungeon. He escapes and finally reaches Althea, but too late.
Where's Bloom?
When she disappears, it's usually to go see Professor Avalon.
The fact that this is so common, that Stella assumes Bloom is with Avalon whenever she can't find her, is really something. In any case, the responsibility for Magic Dimension, plus the guilt of her handing the actual key to Darkar, plus not sleeping well, Bloom is so desperate for progress and to gain some kind of leverage she can use in the fight against Darkar that it becomes her ruin.
I don't remember much. I'll do anything so it won't happen again.
Follow me.
I'm picking up so much negative energy.
That's all right, my dear. You are trapped.
Ew, Jesus Christ. With the grooming parallel, these creepy scenes are so much more creepy, it's insane. It is what it's supposed to be. He abducts her. Listen, this scene scared me so much as a kid, and it honestly is still nuts.
Are you afraid of me, Blue? You weren't when I was looking like this, were you?
Basically, Bloom needs to be transformed into a version of her that has no connections or relationships, nothing else she wants to do but do Darkar's bidding in order for her to become the Dragonfire consort to Darkar's Shadow Phoenix.
The natural consort of the Shadow Phoenix.
And they use the word consort. There's also this extra sketch that didn't make it into the final episode and whatever, that features her joining him. Basically, someone explained it in the comments. I don't want to go into that. Avalon's clone introduced darkness of the Shadow Phoenix to Bloom's heart. That's how he could transform her. In a way, Avalon is the abuser and Darkar is the corruptive force that can get anyone caught in a cycle of violence. And Bloom's story this season is about surviving this experience, or abuse I should say, and stopping the cycle altogether. On the other side of Bloom's coin, or a coin where Bloom is on one side, is Trix. Disposed and replaced by Darkar, with Bloom they combine into one entity that goes after Darkar. They even go on to repeat that same cycle next season, by the way, including the iconic.
Whoa, did you two see that? Ugly! Yeah, and to think I had a crush on him. First Darkar, now Valtor. We keep hooking up with losers.
And you know, even though it's kind of cliche, or very much cliche, I don't mind friendship and love saving the day in this case, because it's kind of a perfect resolution. The bonds that Winx created and solidified in season 2 resulted in their charm mix and them being able to actually execute convergence magic. That same restored feeling of community is what makes Bloom able to heal herself from within, and they specifically use the word she's healing herself from within. She didn't snap out of it just because Sky talked to her or something like that. So low-key, this is kind of perfect. The isolation of Bloom by Avalon, the secrecy of their meetings, the hypnosis stuff that needs to be done only with 2 of them in the room, the gradual physical contact, gifts, making Bloom feel special, as in more mature and responsible than others, fulfilling a need that only Avalon for some reason can fulfill. It is literally textbook grooming. He is even seen as the most charming, virtuous man ever, which is also really common. It seems like season 2 is the introspective season of Winx. Yes, there's plot and action and a million other things, but it's also a season that I'd argue employs the Buffy-esque approach of show writing, where the monster or evil entity becomes a metaphor or parallel to real life struggles. It's not as direct as here's an enemy and we are warriors, so we gotta go and slay. There is a clear 26 episode long metaphor here, and listen, there's absolutely no info out there from the writers of season 2 that confirms or denies or even addresses the writing process of season 2. This unexpectedly well-crafted depiction of many people unfortunately go through in their teen years could be an accident. I think it isn't, just because of how consistent it is, and just how textbook it is when it comes to signs of grooming in teenagers and their teachers. The storyline is not made graphic or so in your face that it would make the show too intense for preteens. It is still teaching to pay attention and emphasizes the importance of having strong friendships, familial relationships, and appropriate love interests, as well as not to trust random people over those who you know and love. And I think that's great. It presents the idea of some people, even teachers, who might have ulterior motives, and it shows it in a way where some signs overlap with what girls and young teens might see exhibited towards them. Is it basically a PSA? No. I don't know how effective it really is, considering that it's part of the magic narrative where everything becomes at least partially a metaphor, nor do we have any stats on things like this. But I know that it was a surprise to see through prepping for the last couple of Winx videos that this storyline that I already knew was at least loosely about grooming is actually a lot better executed than one would expect, and has a 26 episode arc that weaves in and out in a compelling way. I also do remember that season, even though I didn't understand what this metaphor was about, it did make me more aware of the fact that sometimes people who are supposed to be in positions of power, or you're supposed to be able to trust, like mentors, teachers, etc., can have ulterior motives. And it also gave me this innate creepy feeling from those scenes that I think is useful in recognizing it in real life later on. So yes, season 2 of Winx Club is about grooming of the main character, her going through it, identifying what the issue is, including the fact that her heart has been infected by the same darkness as her abuser, and instead of succumbing to it, like the tricks and continuing the cycle.
Taste our hate, our anger, our bitterness, and our revenge.
Stopping it for good through quite literally healing herself from within.
No! It cannot be! It's impossible!
Bloom's healing power! She's using it on herself!
And on us as well!
Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. If there are any other storylines that you would like to have discussed on this channel. And I will see you next time. Bye!